How do you smile on television while hiding the faces of the women who never came home? I still remember the night his grin lit up the studio lights. The audience clapped, the host laughed, and America thought they were watching a harmless game. But sitting here, telling you this, I can't forget what that smile really meant. The air that evening carried a kind of false warmth. Bright lights bouncing off polished floors, laughter rolling through the stage. To the cameras, he was just another bachelor. But to the women who crossed his path, he was the last person they ever saw. Take Marissa Hale, 19 years old, a photography student who loved chasing sunsets with her Polaroid. The last photo she took was still tucked inside her camera. An unfinished moment, trapped forever. Or Angela Torres, 22, who left her night shift at a diner with a note on her fridge that read, "Don't wait up." She never came back. What made him so dangerous wasn't just the violence. It was the charm. The easy laugh, the casual touch on a shoulder, the way he made strangers feel seen. It disarmed them, it blinded them, and it worked. That night on national television, he looked like every woman's dream date. But behind that stage curtain, the truth was already buried with the women who trusted him. And when investigators finally pulled back the layers, what they uncovered wasn't a man. It was a predator with a camera. A man who captured smiles and then silenced them forever. What if the only thing left of your daughter was the song she hummed before walking out the door? That's what Claudia Reese's mother remembers most. Claudia was 27, a teacher who filled her classroom with laughter. She kept a bracelet on her wrist, a gift from her students, tiny charms that jingled when she wrote on the chalkboard. The night she disappeared, the bracelet was found snapped in two, lying in the gutter, metal bent as if someone had torn it from her arm. Dana Lou, just 23, had a ritual. Every morning before law school, she played the same vinyl record, soft, steady, a song about promises. Her roommate swore the record spun on repeat that day, needles scratching into silence long after Dana failed to come home. They were not nameless, faceless women. They were young lives stitched with small routines, details so ordinary they hurt to remember. Claudia's chalk dust still coated the corner of her desk. Dana's record player still sat by the window, needle cracked, the vinyl warped with overuse. What made this story unbearable was not only how they died, but how ordinary the moments before were. A classroom door closing, a record turning, a bracelet breaking. These weren't just women taken, they were lives interrupted mid-sentence. And when the police traced their final hours, they found a chilling thread. Each woman had been approached by a man carrying a camera, offering to capture them in the perfect light. That was his lure. Not violence at first, just a smile, just a photograph, a promise of beauty that ended in silence. How do you track someone's last steps when the ground itself seems to swallow them whole? Linda Park still remembers the silence. Angela Torres was supposed to meet her for coffee after her late shift. She never arrived. Linda called her phone again and again, but each time it rang, it cut off after the first tone. Hours later, when police searched Angela's apartment, the coffee cup she had set out for the morning was still waiting on the counter. Cold water inside, untouched. Evelyn Ross, a contestant on the dating game, described something unsettling. When she sat next to Alcala during the show, she said he leaned too close, whispering words she couldn't make out. She laughed it off in the moment, but afterward, she told a producer, something in his eyes felt wrong, like he was already somewhere else. Then there was Henry Doyle, a cameraman who remembered Alcala lingering after the taping, insisting he review the footage of himself again. Henry recalled the way Alcala stared at the monitor, fixated, silent, as if watching for clues only he could see. These weren't random fragments. Together, they painted a chilling outline. A man who craved attention, who hid behind the lens of a camera, and whose victims vanished between ordinary acts. A missed coffee date, a smile on stage, a casual request. But the first undeniable sign came with Marissa Hale's Polaroid. When her friends developed the unfinished roll inside her camera, the last shot showed a blurred figure standing behind her. The face was out of focus, but the posture, the tilt of the head, was eerily familiar. It wasn't proof yet, But for the first time, suspicion had a shape. And it looked disturbingly like the man America had cheered for on television. The first time they opened the box, they thought it was a prank, until the smell told them it wasn't. Detective Rosa Medina was called to a Los Angeles storage unit in 1979 after neighbors complained of a foul odor. Inside, among stacks of discarded furniture, officers found a box sealed with duct tape. When Rosa slid it open, she froze. Inside were dozens of photographs, women, girls, even children, posed in ways that sent shivers crawling up her spine. Some smiled nervously. Others looked terrified. A few weren't moving at all. Meanwhile, journalist David Klein received an anonymous tip at the newsroom. The caller didn't give his name. His voice cracked as he whispered, "He keeps trophies. Check the photos. He always keeps photos." Then the line went dead. At the coroner's office, Dr. Lillian Cho examined a series of remains pulled from remote hillsides east of the city. She noted one chilling similarity. Every victim's cause of death was carefully disguised. Strangulation masked as a fall. Blunt trauma passed off as an accident. It wasn't carelessness. It was control. Each thread was separate. A storage unit, an anonymous call, unclaimed remains. But when Rosa pinned the photographs to the board in her office, the pattern grew undeniable. And at the center of those images, in multiple frames, was a familiar man holding a camera. Sometimes smiling, sometimes half-hidden in mirrors, but always present. The investigation had a face. And it was the same face millions had seen broadcast on national television. How do you trust a neighbor who photographs your children and keeps the pictures hidden in boxes? In 1980, Officer Daniel Whitaker was canvassing a quiet Pasadena street when he knocked on a modest yellow house. The man who answered smiled politely, but Daniel noticed the walls behind him, lined with framed portraits. None of them seemed like family. The smiles in those frames looked forced, almost frozen. Across town, Professor Elaine Foster, a criminologist at UCLA, studied the photographs recovered from the storage unit. She circled one detail most investigators overlooked: the background wallpaper. She recognized it instantly. It matched the lobby of a popular Hollywood motel. If that was true, it meant the suspect wasn't hunting in shadows. He was operating in plain sight. Meanwhile, radio technician Carl Benson at LAPD was reviewing tapes from emergency call lines. 1911 recording had been mislabeled. When Carl replayed it, his stomach dropped. Child's voice, barely audible, whispered, "He said the pictures make us live forever." Then silence. By nightfall, 3 separate leads, the yellow house, the motel wallpaper, the hidden 911 tape, collided on the same investigation board. And that smiling man in the photographs? His face wasn't just familiar to detectives anymore. It was staring back from magazine covers, late-night TV appearances, and even billboards across California. The city had unknowingly celebrated a man now suspected of burying its darkest secrets. What if the face you applauded on television was the same one children saw in their final moments? On a gray morning in Los Angeles, Detective Marissa Cole walked into the evidence room holding a single manila folder. Inside was a photograph, one she hadn't seen before. Unlike the others, this image wasn't posed. It captured a girl mid-scream, her hand blurred as if she tried to shield herself from the lens. Across town, reporter Jonah Rains broke a story that rattled every newsroom in California. He uncovered that the suspect once worked as a camp counselor, placing him near dozens of missing children whose cases were still unsolved. The smiling entertainer America thought they knew had woven himself into families, schools, and neighborhoods. That night, forensic analyst Dr. Lydia Harper processed fibers collected from the yellow house's basement. Under ultraviolet light, she saw something chilling. Threads that matched the fabric of the same dress a victim wore the day she vanished. Every test screamed the same truth. This was no coincidence. And as news stations replayed the man's laughter from his televised game show appearance, families of the lost began to call police lines, each convinced they recognized their daughter in the recovered photographs. The city once celebrated his charm. Now every smile, every joke, every televised wink felt like a mask hiding the screams no one had heard, until now. How do you bury a child when their face keeps appearing in a stranger's photo album? In court, prosecutor Elena Vargas laid out the evidence. Photographs, hair strands, the silent testimony of fibers under a forensic lamp. Each detail landed like a hammer on the jury. The families sat in the front rows, hands clenched so tightly their knuckles turned white. But even as the verdict approached, another storm brewed. From Seattle to Miami, mothers came forward with haunting familiarity. One whispered, "That's my daughter's necklace." Another swore she recognized a sweater stitched by her own hands. Conviction brought headlines, but not peace. Behind the bars, the man smiled the same smile America once applauded, a grin that seemed to mock every grieving parent in the room. Outside the courthouse, Father Michael Reed collapsed to his knees. His daughter was never officially tied to the case, yet her resemblance in one of the photos left him sleepless, broken, and without closure. The system had spoken, but the questions multiplied. Years later, the grainy clip of a game show contestant laughing still circulates online. Some watch it with curiosity. Others see only the echo of silenced lives. The truth? Justice can cage a man, but it cannot cage the nightmares he left behind. Subscribe to the Veil of Secret, where the stories the world tries to forget live on.